I watched the Froning and Friends with Jason Khalipa, and in the beginning he fiddled with his headset for the first 10 minutes, and I'm going to do the same thing.
Chris, you're our first multi-guest.
Two-time
guest.
Two-time.
Except for we just found out his original episode was not on iTunes, correct? It is on YouTube. It will be on iTunes too. So
I just thought that you didn't like it.
So we'll double it up.
I really
we just
did.
didn't have the video because we were downstairs in the basement. The video wasn't great, so we didn't load the video.
Gosh, that video would have been classic too, because remember Lakeland crawling all over you in the middle of it?
Oh yeah. Did you see the one with Sean? With Active Life?
No.
Where Trice is sitting on the table
wow.
and Lakeland just shoves Trice?
I did. It was Pastucci.
Yeah. You caught her, though.
I did catch her.
That was good.
Catch.
I didn't think that was happening.
Nope. It wouldn't be the first time that kid's hit his head, though. He's got a big old melon. Pumpkin head. It's a happy pumpkin head Trice. Yep. He is happy all the time.
No, it's
So
nice.
you just got back from South Africa?
I did, yeah. We spent almost 2 weeks. What an amazing place. Probably, we've been lucky enough because of CrossFit and doing these courses around the world that we've seen a lot of places. And I just was not prepared for how incredible South Africa and the range of amazing things that you see. Mm-hmm. Truly incredible.
I just want to know what's scarier, swimming with great whites or big sharks or being in a pen with lions. You kind of did, the gauntlet there.
We've met a lot of people through this community and amazing people, and the connections that they have are always overwhelming. And when we were invited to go into a lion sanctuary rescue facility, we were given a chance to play with lion cubs and to walk with 14-month-old lions, male and female. And I wasn't prepared for that either. I mean, the magnitude of their power, their size. I mean, they have paws on them that are this big, but it's the nails that they have and the way in which they use those nails to take down, their food is terrifying. Yeah, they would sink those into your face and then just pull down, and it would.
Didn't they brief you and say yeah, these are animals, you could die?
That was the thing is you always have to sign these waivers, right? You walk into a gym and you have to sign a waiver, and we just sign things. And so when Heidi and I were there, we just went ahead and we just signed, and they're like, no. We need you to really understand that these are wild animals and
they can kill you.
And they and there's nothing that we can do. It will happen so fast. And the most amazing part about it is that there was a video that was taken, and Heidi was with the male lion and just hanging out. And the female knew that the male was distracting her, and she went and walked around the backside and was crouched down low, and she's stalking.
Yeah.
And luckily, one of the people that we were with watched that happen and intercepted. But yeah, it's just crazy.
He's probably I'm not doing the lions again. That's enough of that.
I was in Africa many years ago, and we didn't see a lion, but at nighttime they walked us out just outside, and there's no lights from the cities or anything, so the stars are right there, and then you hear the lions in the distance at night, and you're just and you can't see, and you're wondering whether they're coming up
Ghost
on you.
in the darkness style?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So I can't imagine actually being in there with one.
It was awesome. It was incredible. I think that we went on a safari at the last 3 days when we were there, and the guide that we were with, he was like a predator too. The way in which they find things is they look at the eyes of other animals, and they can tell where the predators are within these preserves. And
wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, they watch the birds, and that's what the animals do. They just know. And yeah, very impressive.
You swam with sharks too? Lions and sharks? I didn't hear this.
So I was in Oahu. I went to Hawaii and did some stuff with some surfers, and gosh, I got to tell you that the way in which these surfers practice when a blackout occurs and how to control blackout, I got to tell you about that. But yeah, no, I was with some surfers, and I said, I'm going to South Africa, and I might be swimming with some sharks, and they're like, with the cage? And I'm like, well, of course with the cage. And they're like, they're like laughing.
What does that count?
Right. And I'm like, what's that about? Calling them out. And they said, well, we would never, ever use a cage here. And I'm like, wait, so you can go shark diving here? And they said, well, yeah, we could go down to the harbor, which was maybe a 5-minute walk, and they said, "You want to go right now?" And I'm like, "Sure." I grab my flips and we walk out, and there's a boat with like a 40-horse motor on it, and we go 3 miles offshore, and they anchor to like a buoy out there, and the guy that we were with, he's like, "Okay," and he's really talking serious. Well, I've been in the ocean so many times, like no big deal. I'm thinking maybe we'll see one shark, right? And for me, whatever. So he slips off the boat and slides in, and he's all, "Okay, it's okay, you can come on in." I entered the water like I always do, right, with a full-blown cannonball. And he did not find that funny at all.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
So as soon as I cleared like my snorkel, I look under, I look out and I see 24 sharks. I mean, not three,
I'm out.
not one.
Yeah, forget about it.
And there's nothing. And he's like, "What on earth?" And he's yelling at me. And I'm like, but I'm trying to calibrate, like, uh-oh.
What did I just do?
Yeah, and yeah, that was terrifying actually, because the sharks where we were, there were so many that they would swim up from behind you, and that
What
dorsal
species
fin.
were they?
They had like a black tip. There was hammerhead sharks 100 feet down that we can see,
Nah, I'm good.
and
Yeah, but their mouths are only this
I
big.
don't care.
Oh yeah.
no. So okay, so you always think like, what's the defense when a shark comes in? You're
Punch
in
him
the
in the
water,
nose.
right?
Gouge him in the eyes.
But when the mouth is open and
How are
it's
you going to punch him in the nose?
Like,
Your hand goes right down their throat.
right,
What
And
I
how
do
does
with
it?
my
Those
hands.
teeth are angled back this way.
Oh, they're gone, and they've got rows of teeth.
yeah,
Done.
there is no mouth when that thing's
Yeah.
open. I mean, the nose is gone.
No way.
Yeah,
It looks
that's a
like-
good random fact. Did you know sharks had rows of teeth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We did know that.
That
So,
was not
you
awe-inspiring.
seen Finding
in any
Nemo,
way.
Did you
Or-
like actually touch one and they were swimming around you, or did you just? How did that go down?
No, so I never reached out, but they would come like at you like this, and it's really hard not to react. And the thing is that they respond to a reaction. And so what they'll do
It's like
is
a
they'll swim
T-Rex.
at
If you
you.
don't move, they don't know you're there.
This for real. Yeah, I don't know about a T-Rex,
I saw it in a movie once.
but they would swim
Right,
like,
Ellie?
right over your shoulder.
Wow.
Do you know
Yeah.
T-Rex's max speed? They think scientists just found out that they think
Scientists?
it's the scientists just found out that they think it's only 5 miles an hour. So the scene in Jurassic Park is totally wrong.
I actually
Why
read
are
that
we even
somewhere.
afraid?
Did you ever?
Wow, look at all these fast facts.
Hold
that
on,
you
hold
have.
on. Back up. We'll come back to your story, but first, since she brought up the
do
T-Rex.
absolutely do not go
Absolutely,
there.
we
Don't.
will go there. Dre, were you there?
No,
When she brought this up?
don't.
We were working out one
This is
afternoon.
unnecessary.
And it was like with Greg and George and all them and Jordan.
Stop.
And she goes, "So you think with modern technology?"
I said geneticists.
No, you said
Thank
with
you.
modern technology, do you think if they found DNA from a dinosaur that they could recreate him? I was like, yeah. There's a movie.
He doesn't believe.
There's a movie called Jurassic Park where they did that. You didn't see that movie? And she's like, "No, but do you really think?" And I was like,
Ellie.
With what geneticists can do and what all of. Fine, you just don't think
she's
that
like,
people
"Yeah,
are
if they found
pioneering
some,
great things
found
in
some
medicine.
blood and
it's
some
fine.
ember."
I didn't say
Yeah, you did.
if
Blood
they
in an
found
ember?
mosquitoes in
Like-
amber.
Like in
I
the
mean,
movie.
I gotta.
Oh,
I,
the
man.
movie.
Oh.
She was like,
I love you, but boy, I
Ellie.
got to side with Rich. My priority in siding with people is Hillary Froning first, Rich Froning, and then Ellie.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm even on the list.
Wow.
Anyway,
I was not there that day.
No,
I
you were.
didn't-
No, this
okay.
was.
I dodged a bullet.
they still send me pictures
is
of the
before Jim.
Barbasol shaving can George does whenever.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, and then I think
See
they
the
would just put the
That's funny.
serum or the DNA inside a Barbasol can to
Yeah.
hide it. You know.
Yeah.
He also sent me a
Smuggle it off the
video of.
island.
Have you
Wow.
guys seen the 5K where the people dress up as T-Rex? I think it's in Nashville.
We wanted to get one of those T-Rex
Yeah, everyone
costumes.
wears the costumes and they run. And he said, "Is this real?" And I was like, "I hate you."
It's dead serious.
Man.
Oh, like
Anyway.
basically the script of the movie. We were like,
It's fine.
"Are you really? You're saying
You
this?"
just
right now?"
don't have any forward thinking. That's okay. It's fine. Live in
Any
a bubble.
forward thinking. Any.
Maybe in sports. Anyway, back to real life stuff.
But the trip was good. South Africa was
So you
good.
got out of the water without getting bit by a shark.
You have all
Yeah,
your
but I would
fingers,
tell
toes?
you that lions are way more terrifying than
yeah.
sharks are. I mean, I have a respect for sharks, but I'm not terrified. I'm lions for sure. Yeah, but South Africa, what an amazing time.
Never been to South Africa.
Yeah, one of the things that I did, so I do a lot of volunteering because I'm really grateful for what CrossFit has done for me personally, physically. And I volunteered for to coach a class in Cape Town. And I do the class. It was a 75-minute class, and we did it with 40 people. And it's always interesting what happens when you do something like that and you have no expectation. And this kid comes up to me afterward, not a kid, he's 27 years old, and he comes up to me and he says, I would really love to have coffee with you tomorrow. And I'm all, well, what's up? And he says his name is Cameron, and he's a swimmer, and not a lot of information. And he says, but you did some things in this class that really resonated. I've never seen what you did. And he says, I just have ideas swirling in my head. I'd love to hang out with you. So I just agree, Heidi and I, we go and have coffee with this guy, takes us his place the following morning, beautiful, every place is beautiful in Cape Town. And it turns out that this guy won the gold medal for the 100 breaststroke in 2012. And then he got a silver in 16. He was the Olympic world record holder as well. He's won world championships. He's legit. And here it is that, the combination of things that I did through a free class resonated. And here I am now sitting and having coffee with a world record holder and an Olympic champion. And it really is kind of amazing that when you go in with things with not a lot of expectation and what comes out. And I was blown away, just like when talking with the surfers and how they train, and the precision and their knowledge is so incredible. And this guy, he knows his reaction time off the blocks. He knows how much time he's under the water. He knows how many strokes it takes him to get from one end to the other, his split times, everything. And it was really cool that protocols that he picked up in a 75-minute class. Really amazing.
So he's training for 2020 or?
2020, wants to win, and he wanted to know. So he lays out everything for me. It was really fascinating. He lays out all of his how he does his 100 and just how he does his event.
Oh, okay.
And then he turns to me and he says, what would be your recommendation? Kind of fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Physically or mentally or both?
Physically. How can you help me win a gold medal? That's what he turns and asks me.
It's an incredible.
Right.
That's a privilege for someone to look at you and ask that question.
It was awesome. And so, like, for me, he told me, he says, it takes him 27 seconds to do one length, and it takes him 31 seconds to do the second length. And so I would ask him questions on how he trains. And so he says, that first lap is very anaerobic for me. And so I do 30 minutes on an assault, or 30 seconds on an assault bike really hard. And then I'll do some type of recovery after that. And he says, I really learned from you yesterday that I should do an active recovery in my movement. And I said to him, but why 30 seconds when that first lap takes you 27? Why aren't you doing 27 seconds? And he thought, and he's like, well, that's really interesting. And then he turns and he says, I also like doing hill sprints, and that fatigue continues to build just like it does in the 100. And I'll do it for 58 seconds and I'll follow that protocol. I says, is it one continuous grade? And he says, yeah, it's one continuous grade all the way up. It's a hill sprint for 58 seconds. And I said, I think it's cool you do 58 seconds.
But 27 and then a gradual.
Right, do a gradual 27 and then do a steeper pitch for the remaining 31. And he's like, wow, and so we sketched out, I don't know, a dozen ideas on the table there that day. And it was kind of cool. I mean, I have a good background in swimming. I mean, being a swimmer, but to sit down with an Olympic champion and have words resonate, it just shows that we, in the sport of CrossFit, we are experts in fitness. And if you take somebody in one sport such as surfing, underwater free diving, and Olympic level swimming, there is a common thread between all of them that we can help.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
How much responsibility do you feel as a coach? Like you talked about last time, your first meeting with Rich and coming over and Heidi being like, well, at least you get 10 days, even if you don't,
6
if
weeks.
you make him a worse CrossFitter, at least you have 10 days, whatever. But anyway.
That was the first you heard of that, right?
Yeah,
That
I've
was
heard
awesome.
that. That's
so
good.
funny.
That's good.
That was so funny.
But the point being, how much responsibility do you put on yourself, and do you take in, your athletes. Like, you know, you're sitting down with a gold medalist, you're sitting down with Rich, you're sitting down with Jason. How much responsibility do you take in their performance at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, that at the end of the day is what gives me the anxiety, right? That responsibility is real, and they have a limited window. I mean, I feel like athletes that are at this stage of their lives, they don't realize it's going to end. I know it's going to end because I experienced it myself. And I look back on my career and, you know, I never picked up a barbell, for example. And that was a mistake, but I can't get that time back. And if I make mistakes in coaching, then they have lost a portion of that time within their window. And that's not a great thing, right?
Yeah.
They've lost it. And athletes, unfortunately, they don't recognize that clock is ticking. But we as coaches, especially if you are a former athlete that is now a coach, you've got to respect that. And
Where's Palladino? Where's he at?
Yeah, this is.
well, I think that the thing
We'll
is,
make him watch this.
Yeah.
is that unfortunately in CrossFit, you have so many things that you must do to become, you know, one of the best. There's 1,000 things that we can have you do, and in the sport of running or cycling, we do a lot of volume, and we cover up mistakes through volume, but we don't get that luxury in CrossFit. You must be accurate. And so if Matt Fraser comes to you and says, I would really be interested in you coaching me, and I am willing to do 2 running workouts per week, those better be the highest value of his time, because you can't make mistakes like my coaches did.
But if you're an experienced coach like the coach you are too, and you talk about, like, we've talked about how calculated you are, and you have this amazing way of just making athletes better through, like, the application of the science, you know, across different planes. Do you also attack the mental side of, as you're programming, like, we're 2 weeks out from the games, do you also choose a workout based on how you know it will mentally affect the athletes going into it, knowing like they have to hit these times, or 2 weeks from now they're not going to have enough confidence to perform at the games? Like, is that, do you consider the mental aspect as well?
That's a great question.
Yes, I can go ahead and tell you, yes, he does.
Yeah,
Elaborate, but yes.
So like part of it is that you are there to build the confidence, but you also don't want to give athletes workouts that they're not impressed by. Like, I can design anything that crushes an athlete, and I could design anything that is easy for an athlete, but what you want to do is you want to push that athlete and make them do something that when they're done, they reflect on it and they're surprised by. And that's what builds the confidence. Like, as an example of that, like 5 weeks before the games, I was with Matt up at his house, and we were going to the track that day, and I asked him, I said, so what kind of workout do you want on the track today? And he turns around and he tells me, he says, I want something that scares me.
Wow.
And that's
a great
kind of
answer.
cool,
That's
right?
Awesome.
It's a great, like, what he said. And the thing is like, for me, at the end of the day, I want to satisfy that need of something that's scary. But I also recognize that it's 5 weeks before the games, and I can't do something that he fails at, but I got to push him. And so what I gave him was 16 rounds of a 238 seconds and 138 seconds. So the 100 was an easy jog. The thing is that he wasn't allowed to look at his watch during the 100, and there was no rest between reps or sets, so he couldn't get any water, and it was real hot that day, and it terrified him. And the thing is that what Matt was doing during that workout was, and all CrossFitters do this, they think that when you tell them 38 seconds, I should go 37 high because that's better, right? And that's not how I work. When I say 38, I want 38. And so what happened with him is that he was doing 37.5, 37.5, 37.5. And what I wanted him to learn at the end of this workout was, and that's why I didn't want him to look at his 100 jogs, I wanted him to recognize by him improving a half a second on his on intervals, the 200s, that it would cost him huge in his jog recoveries. And that's what happened. It went from 38 seconds in his jog recovery to almost a minute.
Wow.
And he was on number 12, and I was watching him, and that one of the things that I teach a lot about is breathing and the cycle rate of the breath, right? And the rhythm of the breath. And he was starting to hyperventilate. And so I ran the next few with him, and I was telling him, you're going too fast. Go back to a 38. And he's looking, and he's like, what would that matter? And sure enough, when he dropped back to a 38, he got control of his breath, and his jog times went from 55 back down to 38. And so that half second was costing him 15. And that was a learning lesson. And so, yeah, to go back and answer your question, I mean, the job really is that at the end of the day, I must build the knowledge, right? Because that's what makes them confident. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, a good coach, I believe, is all about building an athlete's confidence. And you're going to do that through performances in the workouts that you write. That's the job. And that's why I struggle a lot with coaches. Like, you see it all the time where coaches don't want to educate their athlete. They want to hold that to themselves. And mine, like, I even did this to Rich one time. I said, you know, I've taught you everything. This is like 18 months in, and I know you're the only person that you follow workouts are mine. And if you want to do them on your own, I know you can. And he's like, whoa, do you remember this? Mm-hmm. He says, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but I'm never going to write your running workouts. But my job is to give them the knowledge so that they can do it. Mm-hmm. And where my pursuit as a coach is, I go to the next level. And I see coaches in this sport where they want to possess it. They don't want to share the why in a workout. Because that they feel is their intellectual property, and my intellectual property is moving to the next level.
Right. But didn't you say last time too, when we asked what the biggest mistake CrossFitters were making was not enough of them were asking why. I mean, it was something along like just going through the motions and doing things without understanding or questioning or adding growth to what they were doing. Yeah,
absolutely. Like so at the CrossFit Games, there was a workout where the athletes had to run and then jump over a hay bale, right? Do a series of lifts over a hay bale. And an athlete came up to me afterwards and said, my running, I've really worked on it this year, but that run, I was crushed. I was crushed in the run. The whole time I was just struggling. My legs, and it's interesting to me that their coach didn't answer the question that they were really seeking was of why is that? Like, what happened? I put all this time in, and I said, but was it that really it was the run that was the struggle, or was it all the jumping and that ballistic fast twitch that created the fatigue that you spent the time recovering from jumping up and over that hay bale? And was it the jump that was creating the fatigue, which forced you then to be unsettled in your run? And that's the thing that a coach needs to do, is they need to help the athlete understand that weakness may not be what you think it is.
I think so. If you have the insight and the knowledge that you have, that those thoughts don't even cross their mind for a lot of people, you know?
But I think that's where athletes need to, the challenge with coaching a Rich is his knowledge is so vast, right? And I don't know the things that he knows, the depth of that knowledge. I don't. But I do know that he challenges me. And I like that he wants to know the why, and he will hold me accountable to those whys, which forces me to become better. And I don't think that athletes push their coach into asking the why, because they're maybe afraid that coach doesn't know why.
That's a great point.
Or the coach doesn't let them.
Right.
You know.
A coach will just give a weak answer like, the purpose of this workout is mental toughness.
Right. I'm the coach. You're the athlete. Do what I say.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Well, you're very careful about who you let in your world. I think he might be the only coach that I've ever even seen show up here.
Yeah, we've had Jenna. Well, you didn't know Jenna, but Jenna. Well, yeah, I guess you knew Jenna. She
some
helped
of
us
the
with swimming stuff before we knew Chris.
But why is he somebody that you've led in your world and you respect? And I hear you say,
I mean,
really.
He obviously knows what he's talking about. I mean, me having an exercise science background, I already know he knows what he's talking about, loves what he does. That's the thing that really, I think, is Chris is so passionate about what he does, who he works with, and you see it. Like, Chris asks to coach. You're coaching a class for us this week, right? Our endurance class. And he'll coach them the same way he would coach CrossFit Mayhem freedom. Like when he comes out, you get the same energy. You get the same. It's not. You're not getting a different Chris.
Right.
Like it's literally he loves what he does, and it's cool to see somebody that passionate about what they do. And he's a good dude.
Thanks,
Good dude to have around.
Were you? I have a question for you, Rich. So when you asked me to come out here that first time and to help with your running in 14, right?
Was it 14? Yeah. No. Yeah. 14.
Did you? 'Cause so like when we were talking earlier, like for me, I went out because I'm a fan of the sport, and it's freaking Rich. It's Rich Froning, right? I mean, did you realize the risk that you were potentially taking if you took on running? The risk that it would do to either your lifts or your overall CrossFitting to become better just in the movement of running?
Yes. I mean, you look at, if you really want to geek out on it, you look at, well, if I had such a deficiency in running and all my other stuff was good, if I could bring the running up and lost just a touch of the other stuff, then my overall fitness would be better. In simple terms. And so, I mean, yes, it was a risk, but I mean, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to turn into like a stick figure. I figured you knew what you were doing. You obviously worked with Jason. Jason had improved in multiple facets of endurance, not just running. I mean, he's always been a good rower because the guy weighs 214.
No, it's 208.
No, he was 214 when he was here.
Yeah.
We weighed him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
We
But
weighed him.
he started taking off clothes to
Yeah.
get
But he
on
always-
the scale.
But he always says he weighs 208
Whoa.
because he won in 08. It's like
Oh, yeah.
that's
yeah.
why. Like
Ghost
it's a
weight.
big joke.
Ghost weight.
Ghost weight.
Hashtag
You
ghost
heard,
weight.
you heard this story, the ghost riding story?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think of the ghost riding story? And I took this all the way to the top, by the way. When we did that Ragnar relay, I asked Dave Castro, and he goes, in lack of better, no, we wouldn't allow that.
I like it. I do. I like it. I actually am a believer in the Josh Bridges rope climb where you're holding onto the rope and
Oh,
you
you swing
invert
your
and you
hips all
touch
the way
the
up?
bar top with your feet.
with your feet, yeah. No, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
Dave didn't like the ghost ride. He didn't think the ghost riding
I
thing was appropriate.
I want to say something before you guys get away with this because I think it's really important. And a great coach can do three things in my mind. One, he's an expert at the X's and O's. What you do, you're that. You got a little kabuki dust. A little magic. You got to be able to get people's attention, right?
Yep.
When you start talking, people have to pay attention to you. But to be great, you actually have to care about people at the heart level.
Yep.
I got to care about who you are as a person. And I think that's what sets you apart. And that's what I hear you say.
Yep.
You said at the very end, he's a good dude.
Yep.
But what you meant is, everywhere I go, people are hugging on you and people are loving you and your wife and what's going on. So he has that combination of, well, I want to build a relationship with you.
Yeah.
I actually want you to challenge me. I want you to know the why. But what you're saying is I want to be in a relationship with you and I want you to get it all and I'm going to be here with you and we're doing this together. And we don't necessarily see that all the time.
Talking with you instead of at you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is absolutely true. I do care genuinely about the athletes that I have a vested stake in it. Like I'm passionate about it, and the depth in which I write these workouts, I really understand what's making them tick. And I think that is what separates me, is I spend hours just trying to find that way. You and we went to the track and we had some tough words that day, and I even
Not with Ellie, because Ellie questions everything.
That was the hardest but best day of training for me last year. It was the most stress challenge I've ever been put under, ever.
So we did this workout, and I told her, I said, I don't want to hear ever that you're slow. I don't want to hear it, and stop being a joke. And she's like, but I cannot run 200 meters under 38 seconds. It's never going to happen. And I said, well, you know what? In this workout, you're going to be forced to. Otherwise, we're going to repeat it over and over and over. And we will repeat it up to 5 times until you actually do what I'm asking you to do. And
It was horrifying.
You ran sub 32 seconds that day on the track in a 200, and you supposedly PR'd by 6 seconds in a 200 during a workout.
Wow.
But it was really about getting in and understanding the athlete. And I don't think that that's possible to have performance improvements unless you do that at this level.
Right.
But what is your approach like when you see an athlete knees deep in adversity in life. It can be from anything. It can be from a loss. It can be from not even like I'm saying like a family loss, anything. You're up with your athlete and you have to make them better in the midst of their adversity. What do? You know the science, so what next?
But that's the thing, is that we're in the business, I believe, in building confidence, and that's your job, is to create that confidence. And I'll never forget my defining moment with Jason Kalipa. You know, I used to run with him, and it was incredibly boring because he was so slow, and plus he made all kinds of grunts and noises. He was so loud. And plus, his foot strike was like 18 inches apart, right? It was awkward. But he continuously would refine and get better and better. And in time, what I would do is I would play these games where I would accidentally, but on purpose, bump him. And he'd be on my left, and what I would love doing was jamming my elbow into his bicep, like right here on his arm. And I would push myself forward, and then I apologized like I did it accidentally. We just bumped. But I would do it on purpose because I just was so bored with him. And one day we were running, and I do what I do, and I hit him with my arm and pretended like it was an accident. And he says, if you do that again, I'm going to flick you with my elbow, and you're going to fly over the chain link fence in lane 8. Don't do that. And I stopped, and he stops, and he's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud because you're a competitor. Yeah. And the smile on his face from a game that he now realized I was playing that for months, right? And he realized, like, he is aware of all of his surrounding. He's truly a threat. And it was a big moment for like that. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's what we need to do. Is we always need to be doing, like, I write workouts, like in those beginning workouts, I would write things that I would come back to but not say anything, but he knew because he would see the patterns. And I think that that's the mistake that a coach feels. Why should a coach sit at the exit after a class and say, good job, see you tomorrow, good job, see you tomorrow? I believe that the workout should be so clear that when they finish it, they know they did a good job.
That's a great point.
Right? That's what the workout should do.
Self-evident.
Right. Mm-hmm. I should not tell you ever good job. That's why this gold star thing came up, right? I don't want to tell you good job. I want you to do something that surprises me. And if you do, I will award a gold star. And those are very rare.
I like that.
You've gotten a gold star.
I've gotten 1 or 2.
Wow.
One.
Wow, 1.
There was one for something that wasn't workout-wise. I don't remember what it was.
I saw an Instagram post of you doing my warm-up drills.
That's what it was.
I mean,
that was the second gold star. The first gold star was in a workout. The second one was I was teaching your warm-up drills.
Well, that first, you know that workout was the 1200 that you did.
Oh yeah, that you
remember that?
Yeah. If you wouldn't have told Hewitt that you were trying to trick me into doing a 1 mile time trial.
You regret that though, don't you?
I do now.
You want to tell that story?
So we were.
It was after
15.5. Okay.
It was Cookeville 2015.
Yeah, and so we went to the track, and Chris is like, "All right, we're gonna do a 1,200 meter time trial
at the end of a 5,000 meter track workout.
At the end of a 500 or 5,000 meter track workout."
Yeah.
And so before the workout, and so he told us that. And so before the workout, we went to go take a piss, and Hewitt goes, "You know he's gonna try to trick you into doing a 1,600." And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, he told me that yesterday. And I was like,
that
all right,
guy.
that dick. And so sure enough, we finished the workout, and then he's like, all right, we're doing this 1,200. And I don't even remember.
He complained. You're
a
complainer.
I'm a complainer. Yeah, heck yeah.
You're a complainer.
Especially on running.
Yeah. I hate you.
I've told you I hate you several times. I've run that 1,200 in 4 minutes?
4 minutes.
Yeah. And he's like, all right, just go. And I was like, nope, shutting it down.
That would have been so fast.
Shutting it down. Nope.
That would have been such a great mile time.
5:20.
I know.
Yep.
What the?
And he was comfortable.
And I was comfortable.
Afterwards,
I felt good.
Afterwards, he so he
It was
ran.
the fact of the matter. He's trying to trick me. I didn't. nah, bro.
Gonna do it.
I mean, that's the
stubborn.
That's the thing is like.
Yeah, I mean, the third lap's always the hardest lap. And I felt good after the third lap.
But that was the trick, right? Is to make them think that. And I'm yelling at him as he's coming down the final straight. I'm all, Rich, you can run 5:20 right now. It's just one lap. And he's like, as he's doing his lap, I'm not doing it.
I didn't do it. I regret it now, but I didn't do it. Stood my ground.
Oh,
That's an incredible learning experience, and for you,
Yep.
that's really important.
Yeah.
Where you're at in your career and what you're doing, to be able to create that kind of an atmosphere where, really an elite athlete gets a chance to learn something is a big deal.
Well, that's what I wanted him to recognize, is that in every workout there is a sticking point. And if you can get through that sticking point, you're home free, right? And so if I said right now, you don't even need to know, but we're going to do a workout and it's 10 rounds. Every one of you would know which one of those rounds that after you make it through, I'm kind of home free. So for me, if I got through 7, 8, I don't care what it is, I can finish and bring it home. And that was the thing, is that a lot of people, they don't assess a workout properly. The greats do. They look at it and they go, okay, where is it going to be the most challenging for me? And the greats do one better. They also understand the amount of pain that they're going to be in that moment, right? Is it a grinding, dull ache, or is it a searing, burning fire pain? And they know that when they get there, that's what it's going to feel like. So when it actually occurs, they're not surprised. A lot of athletes fail because they don't assess the workout properly. And the learning lesson by Rich in that day was, it's only 3 laps.
Wow.
And Rich could wrap his head around doing 3 laps, but he couldn't in that time wrap his head around 4. And that's what I wanted him to know. I actually like the fact that he quit. I do, because he regretted that moment, and he can never get that back again, ever.
Yeah.
That would have been the fastest mile time that he's ever run, by a long shot. And he'll never get that back, because that 4th lap was the challenge.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is.
Yeah, that's
I
why
love
I
that
always
story.
Yeah, that's why I always, and I never, that was the first, I've never even said what the purpose was. He already knew what it was. I shouldn't have to go in and say, here's the learning lesson here. The workout says it.
It's like we were talking about a coach. You've got to be able to create that space, that learning time, especially for an athlete who's used to competing and used to being at a high level. You've got to figure out how to put them in some kind of space like that to get them out of that groove they're in and get better.
Well, I think a lot of CrossFitters, unfortunately, their definition of high intensity is no longer high intensity. I think that they've done high intensity, and they see improvements in performances.
Everybody's just doing volume now.
Right.
And
So
somebody loses the intensity by doing so much volume, which there's a place for volume. But if you're doing so much volume that you have no intensity, what's the point?
Right. Yeah, and I think that they're losing that extreme end, and so their bandwidth in terms of intensity is shrinking. I love the fact that the volume is shifting, and they're doing a lot more volume at aerobic level intensities, right? Which is helping their ability to clear fatigue, which is phenomenal. But that intensity switch still must be there. And I have many athletes where I program workouts that unless you're at this certain point within this amount of time, then you're going to start your workout over. And I have a lot of them that I am redefining what they consider to be high intensity. Meaning, I want you to be at 45 meters in 7 seconds or under on this track run. And if you're not, you're going to stop, rest, and do it again. Because they're not defining truly what high intensity is. They're being too conservative in pacing of the workout. And sometimes, you know what? You've got to develop that upper end, and you've got to fly.
You did that to me.
And that's like, so Ellie is one of those where she realizes that she's got to turn that switch on and be held accountable for it. And for me, I just say, like, you must be here, and if you're not, I'm going to stop you. It's not good enough.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I think that's like with athletes, like I'll have athletes that they say, I ran the 7K run at the CrossFit Games, and I was amazing on the flat section. And then we get into the hills, and I just got smoked. I need to do more hill running. And I'm like, wow, that's really fascinating to me. I mean, it's good information, but is it really the hills that's preventing them, or is it the body's ability to go from a high intensity, fast twitch anaerobic effort, like up the hill, and then an aerobic recovery effort on the downhill? Should we practice a high intensity, low intensity, high intensity, low intensity, like the workouts that you do a lot of, right? A fast speed into a slow speed into a fast speed. And should we be doing more of that type of work? And so like with athletes that are on the elite end, what I find that they're great at is defining what their issues are and where their problems. They just don't know where and how to solve it. And I always think that it should be logical, right? I always see coaches and they put this, this advanced physiology razzle-dazzle on the explanation. And it's like, well, wait a minute, though. It should be logical. Like, it should make some sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Truth is always connected to reality in my mind. It's got to make some sense.
Well, like these surfers, right? So these surfers in Hawaii, they get drilled on big waves, and they're under for a long amount of time. I mean, there's a big break in Northern California, Mavericks, and this guy was talking about that I was training over there in Oahu. He was talking about how he got drilled there once, and they wear these vests, and they pull a cord, and it usually can bring them up. They have a safety one where they pull the second one, and for sure, but he got hammered on this wave, and it was still driving him down with both of them pulled.
Gosh.
So they have to be prepared to hold their breath for a long amount of time. So I asked this question.
He still wants to try this. I don't.
No, we're doing it. I'm doing it for sure.
Have you heard this yet, Dre?
Don't do this at home.
This sounds like something you would do.
Well, Palladino will do it for sure.
He brings it up every other day. He's ready to do it.
No, so I'm going to do it in quiet with Palladino. So I asked the question. I said, so when, like, I'm being a swimmer, part of what I was curious on is how do you know when you're about to black out? Like, how do you know?
That's a good question.
And can you control a blackout? That's what I asked.
Wow.
Because they're experiencing these things frequently. And he says, yes, you can control it, and you know when it's going to come. And so there is a way to buy a little bit, like a spare tank. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he says, one of the things that I do in order to train for blacking out and to knowing where it is that I go on an assault bike and I pedal as fast as I possibly can. And I'm like, wait, what? What's an assault bike have to do with it? And he says, well, hold on, let me back up first. He says, I take 2 mattresses and I put one on one side of the assault bike and another on the other side of the assault bike. I put my bicycle helmet on, and then I do this max effort bike ride on the assault bike as fast as I can. And then at the end of the 30 seconds, I hold my breath.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what?
Oh, God.
Don't do
so,
this at home.
Yeah, don't try this at
I
home.
hold my breath as long as I can. And I'm like, well, how long can you hold it for? He says, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know?
Because he blacks out.
Wow.
Dude, he wakes up on a mattress.
Every morning.
Crazy. How often do they do it?
He does like 8 rounds.
8
Wow.
what?
That can't
Is
be good
even
for
I was
your
going to say,
brain.
how can that be healthy
gotta
for
Not
you?
like-
healthy. Have you heard about, we do a lot of underwater stuff post-workout swimming. Ellie loves it.
Oh.
Well, so Angelo, one day, did I tell you this story yet?
No.
So we're doing underwater 25s, and Angelo one time pops up and he goes, is it, that feeling you get where you like, your legs start to tingle and you're almost out of breath, you're hyperventilating? And we're like, yeah. He's like, is it weird that I kind of like that?
Like,
Wow.
And we were like, yes, Angelo, that's really weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, maybe Angela will do that bike ride.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
He and Palladino would for sure.
Wow.
Yep.
But so going back, you mentioned earlier the big moments, and I've been wanting to ask you this since the last podcast because I thought it was such a cool story. Like, quick, back summary. You said you decided to become a triathlete when you're sitting on the couch and you're 17, 115 pounds, watching the Ironman with your dad.
Yeah.
You go, I want to do this, and he said, absolutely, son.
Let's make it happen,
Yep.
is what he said.
That's awesome. So fast forward, and I asked last time what your defining moment as an athlete was. You said Ironman Canada. That was a race you were so proud of because you gave it your all, even though you ended up second in the last mile of the race. And you said you'd pushed and pushed and pushed, and in that last mile you got passed. And you said you took a walk and you sat on the curb, and your dad said something to you, and you got up and you finished the race. I've been dying to know, what did he say? And is that something you use as a coach and as an athlete to this day? Like, is that something that continues to resonate with you, or is it just the fact that you knew you pushed your hardest that day?
No, so he came up to me, I'll never forget. He came up to me and he says, "Champions finish." And I just got up and went. Yeah, super emotional.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What were you thinking at that moment in your head before he said that to you?
That's the thing, is that when you get beat there and you realize there's nothing you can do, that feeling of it just is overwhelming, and it just that power vanishes. And there is an adrenaline when you are being chased, and there is always this small amount of hope that keeps. There's a phenomenon inside of all of us where when we know the finish is there, right, that we can hang on with a higher level of intensity because we know we're about to lay down, right? In that moment when I got beat, that experience or that feeling happened a mile from the finish line. And to regroup again and to get that last mile, it was just, I was very deflated and it was very difficult. But when he told me, yeah, that was some
Did
strong
it bring
words.
you comfort when you saw him there?
No, it was just the words, right? It was
Champion
just the
finish.
words. No, my dad would irritate me like crazy during events, right? Like, do you know? So not just. I met your dad for the first time, and we were at
you.
and we were at we were at the games, and I'm sitting in one of the tunnels at the soccer stadium, and I see this guy come up the stairs, and he stands there, and I'm like, that's Rich Sr. And I go up and I'm all, hey, I'm, introduce myself. And I'm like, so why aren't you down there, watching? He says, oh, no. He says, I irritate Rich.
Yeah, well, at times.
And so I kind of want to stay where he can't see me.
That's funny. So did we talk about the drag him like a dog story on the last
Yes,
one?
we did.
We talked about it with Darren. Did we talk about it with you?
No, right.
Where you told Matt to drag Darren like a dog?
Darren came out of the water.
Yeah,
well, apparently Dad said that to.
Yep.
Dad used the same line after you, so he stole one of your lines.
Right. Yeah. Oh boy.
Like a dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Darren. Yep.
I think that perspective, though, I remembered that story from the last podcast, and that was really powerful for me. Because we win and we lose. We do both of those things, and
everybody, even the champions. I mean, like this year, right? And it's not an easy thing, right? It's not. But for me, in reflecting back on those days, I feel like those are the things that shaped me as an individual, and it clearly shaped me as a coach. And part of what I have is I have that perspective that day is going to end, right? And those moments will occur.
yeah.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? The real world is all about competing.
Yeah.
And you're not always going to get what you think you're going to get.
It really resonated with me. There are two things I've always had in my mind. One, if I prepared correctly, and I knew I did, and that my effort was there. I mean, 100% max effort. Then I was okay. What would be, whatever would be,
Yeah.
So it really resonated to me that you felt that was your greatest performance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why as a coach, I mean, we never sit down and talk like you're prepared. I'm writing things to where I feel, I mean, you think about the things, it's almost like we knew what the workouts were this year at the CrossFit Games in the areas that I focused on, right? Mm-hmm. You think about the swim, the swim run transitions and
I was like, yeah.
And the individuals on how to get on and off of the bike. And I mean, it was remarkable. And I feel like if I'm in tune with you guys enough, I'm going to prepare you, but not have to even have that talk, right? Because at the end of the day, my job is to kind of let those things be just one of the factors that help put them in the position to be a champion.
I'm talking from the athlete's heart.
Oh, yeah.
What I heard you was talking about your heart as an athlete.
Yeah.
And for me, that's that space that I wanted to be in. For sure, we want that athlete to get there. But I used to have a coach that would say, the hay's in the barn. You
Yeah.
probably heard that
Yeah.
before. And I wanted to be in that space.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's. I love the fact that I get to coach elite level athletes, but the fascination is the common characteristics between them and what makes them great, and how does that greatness transcend sport into real world?
Yeah.
Is the amazing thing for me. I mean, I spent 25 years in the real world in high level, business, and those characteristics are universal, right?
Can you identify a couple of those commonalities off the top of your head, or not really?
Yeah, so I think it's all about knowledge and that confidence, right? That my dad always told me, there's something about someone with some gray hair, right? And the reason why he said it is that they're perceived as being smart.
Wisdom.
Right? Wisdom. And that individual that wants to learn, right? That is in a constant quest of learning. Like, I mean, so like for me and what I read and stuff, I mean, you'll find it boring. So this is what I brought with me. How boring is that?
That's awesome. Blood lactate response to exercise.
It's not super
And
boring.
That's awesome. Strength training and coordination. See, no, those are fantastic. Wow. Current issues in exercise science. That's great.
So for me, I want to learn and read, and I think that's the universal. Like for me, I was in sales for 25 years. I have no idea what the products were that we made. It was a part number, right? For me, it was the technique and how to establish a relationship to get the confidence from purchasing agents to do a deal, right? What is it that we can do to satisfy your individual requirements? The same thing with an athlete.
Did you get this? Did you get these attributes from your parents, do you think?
I got it from my dad.
Do you look up to your dad?
I do. So, I mean, absolutely. The thing so I got second place in the Hawaiian Ironman, and do you realize the next day, so my dad's all, watch him now get a big head, thinking that he did something special. I grew up in a house that had multiple All-Americans, in swimming, and, everybody's done the Hawaiian Ironman in my house multiple times.
Your parents or siblings or?
Yeah. My brother had the swim record. My sister had the swim record. My dad had, 18 world records in masters swimming.
Okay, we have to back up for a second. You have to tell us what it was like growing up in your house. We need a little more detail here.
They have a lap pool in their backyard.
What? You've what?
It was
His
very
mom's
competitive.
super sweet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my mom loves Rich, boy.
Oh my gosh. So what was it like
Yep.
growing up in the Hinshaw household then? I didn't know
It was
these
very
things.
competitive. Very. It was it was always a situation where I was the least athletic of the bunch, and
What?
oh yeah.
You got
No.
second at the Hawaiian Ironman. You're the least athletic?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
don't believe that.
Yeah, no, I grew up in a house that was very, very talented people, but it was because my parents created an environment that supported that type of behavior, right? They were very encouraging in that way. I did morning swim practice and afternoon swim practice as a kid, and my dad was 45 years old, and he would be there with us swimming. And he would work all day during the day. And so for me, like that work ethic is what has carried me today, is that's how I grew up. That to me was normal. So I do respect him in that way. And that's why I never feel like a lot of people that when they ask me, they're like, you've had a lot of success in CrossFit as a coach. And, how many champions have you coached? And I don't know, because I don't judge success that way. I judge success by, like, I've coached Rich since December of 2014. The fact that he is still interested in me being his coach today is the cool thing, right? That's the coolest. Like, I've coached Katrin since September of 13. September of 13. 2 championships she's won at the CrossFit Games. it's because I still coach her today.
Wow.
And that's the value. And I think that that's coming also from my dad. It's not about your accomplishments. It's about being a champion and finishing.
What's the relationships, like you just said? I mean,
Yeah. Fundamentally, we call it who you be. You know, that whole, the value in it all, the depth of it all.
Yeah.
The rest of it's just something you're doing. Your dad's just like, yeah, you're winning. Great. You know?
Well, that's why I think that Rich, people always ask me, it's like, oh, what's it like? And what's his work ethic like? And is it just a machine? And I go, that's not his magic.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I don't know if we've never even spoken about this, but I think Rich's magic is truly who he has surrounded himself with.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like-minded people that have good character, right? That are honest, that they have integrity, that he can count on. And that's who he has surrounded himself, and it's that group that's creating this greatness within him.
Yep.
And I think that that's the magic. That's why when you come into Cookeville, I'll never forget it. I came here that first time, and I called Heidi, and I'm like, you got to come here. I go, it's like, and
Cookeville,
she's like,
Tennessee?
She's like, I'm never taking vacation to come to Tennessee. It's funny that here we're moving here, right? And I said, I'm telling you, I am a better person because of what I just experienced. And, you know, we 7 times last year.
Yeah.
And every time I leave a better human being from being around the people that Rich has surrounded himself with. And that is why he's great.
And there's this, you know, basically what the things that we're working on together. We're launching this, I don't know if I can even say the name yet, but the Mayhem mindset. And there's a win at all costs, or winning as the focus and success as the focus, or there's this living with purpose and the connections and the people, and or what we're calling values in our lives. And winning is a byproduct of those things in action. When I got around here, I didn't know Rich. I didn't know anything about Rich. I've been in the football world, and I had watched the culture clash between let's win at all costs, and I don't give a dang about you, and you better be when I tell you, how I tell you, or hey, let's love the people we're around, let's build better people, let's be in a relationship, and let's live with purpose. And so I show up here, and nobody knows me, and I don't really know anybody, but I start to actually see that. And it's very different than most places. And people want to show up here, and they want to look for the magic sauce, and there's a lot of athletic ability, and there's a lot of those kinds of things, talent and ability for sure, but man, these people love each other and care about each other, and it's a family, and they're all working together. And the environment you talked about, you grew up in a home where there was this environment that was competitive. I think that's one of the key values that each one of these guys bring. They're uber competitive, but then there's this culture that's established that's more purposeful than just winning. And I've heard it on multiple occasions now. I've heard really good CrossFitters show up here, like people who, if I could say their name, you'd be like, yeah, I know that person for sure. Yep. And they're kind of looking around for like, man, why is this different? Well, this is why this is different. Yeah. This is the key.
Yep. I think that's what people get out of, you know, the weekends with you, right? They recognize it's like, that is the value.
Just train and have fun. That's what we do.
What's your question of the...
Oh, your wisdom. Today's wisdom.
Well, she showed me what she wanted to say for a question. It's kind of...
There's nothing more powerful to the human connection than being vulnerable and sharing.
So what I think is true based on what we just said is being authentic. And what I saw here was authenticity. That these people are really who they say they are. It's not perfect. Dudes are just dudes. People are just people. We all have our goods and bads and challenges and struggles, but it's real. It's authentic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that it's real in this environment. Outside of this environment, there is a lot of there's a lot of negative and black space out there that is the reality. And this sport, just like all other sports, there's you know, also difficult people, and that's doesn't exist here.
Right.
And it's because, you know, of the environment that I think that Rich has created, and people, they gravitate towards that.
Absolutely.
CrossFit is something that you guys do. It's not who you are.
Right.
You're a husband.
Right.
You're a father. Your faith is important to you. Your family is important to you. And so what you're doing is connected to those things, and you're living with purpose. And that's the magic sauce. And people come to the What's Rich Doing weekend, and they kind of sort of figure some of that out, and they see some of that. And so people at all levels of the CrossFit, whether you're elite or you're just beginning, can connect that way.
Right.
And it's authentic and it's real.
Yep. I think that's the key is recognizing that is across the board. It's not about the elites. It's all the way down to entry level fitness enthusiasts as well. I mean, that's stepping away from what Rich has created around. It's I think that's the coolest part for me too, is appealing to this broad reach, right? Like, I mean, I am very lucky to be able to work with elite level CrossFitters, but I also spend most of my time with recreational athletes, and I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Is that we're working with this broad range, and that appeal is equally as valuable.
I mean, it's my personal story. I'm not an elite CrossFitter. I'm a 50-year-old middle-aged guy with all kinds of, health issues, and where him and I intersect is in this purpose idea. Yeah. It's this thing that's bigger than just CrossFit.
Yep.
And it makes it real, and it makes it worth living and being a part of, and people move here because of it.
Yeah.
So you see and you interact with the whole spectrum then. Like, so you can go from one bubble of, wow, these, they haven't figured out, and then you see some negatives and you see everything across the board. How do you stay grounded when you enter those environments? Is there a word or phrase that guides your life or what you're doing? Or when you go into the, I'm going to say, darker areas in your mind or groups, how do you handle that?
So I have, this year was I learned a lot. What drove me early on within CrossFit was gratitude for getting my health back. I am beyond grateful that I incorporated CrossFit into my fitness routine, and it restored my health, right? I'm shocked at the things that I'm able to do, and I wish that you would have known me 10 years ago before CrossFit. And not that I was overweight, I was just broken from doing 8 years of high-level triathlon
thousands
training.
of miles.
Right. I mean, for a breakfast conversation was riding down the coast of California, right? I mean,
yeah. It
was an incredible thing, and I'm grateful for getting my health back. And so that's why I did things for free, right? And I've 7 trips, and I pay everything. And so what drove me is to repay and to pay it forward. And there's no games athlete that's ever paid me anything, ever. And a lot of what I do is leveraging that knowledge in games athletes to help, water down to the fitness enthusiast who is limited on time and wants to maximize their fitness in a more efficient and effective way. And that's what I've rationalized in my head. This year, though, I realized that there are a lot of people that will take advantage of that. And it was a grow-up year for me, 2017. I learned a lot of lessons that you can't just blindly do things, because there are a lot of people that will grossly take advantage of those things. And, we were talking about that earlier. It's like, it's hard not to have that change who you are, a bad experience. And
we were talking about loyalty.
That's a great
and
point.
How it's a big one for
Wow.
me.
Yeah.
And we were saying that.
yeah. And so it's very difficult for me, because some of the events and the things that money does a strange thing from a lot of people, and the people that, they may not have the same values as me.
Yep.
And when money comes in, it's like, wow, I could really, it may affect Chris and hurt him in some way, but I got to take the money. And yeah, it's hard not to have those things affect you, where you think that you have a relationship, you think that you have a friendship and a connection, and in reality, you actually never did. And it's hard to not have that affect you and change who you are. And that's why I think that I'm being more careful moving forward. I'm very selective now. Instead of helping more people, I'm very narrow in the people that I'm working with.
Yeah.
Because I realize now that that is a concern. CrossFit is turning into a business for these athletes, right? They're going out and they're doing camps and clinics and seminars. They're doing online programming, and it's not what it used to be, right? And so it's causing me to be a lot more cautious and a lot more protective and spend more time. And that's why, you know, coming to Cookeville and spending time with the people that have been proven over, you know, years to have the same values.
Yeah, you know, I think two things that I think about when I approach these things. One is being mindful, and that's what you're talking about, right? I'm going to think about this. And the second thing is that authenticity, being authentic. And I've had a couple of really high level CrossFit athletes ask me about some of the things that you do and why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't make any sense. It's not going to make him any money. And there's this huge big discussion. Well, the question is that, or the answer is, that's who Rich is. That is who he is. That's what he believes in. Mm-hmm. That's who he be. He's going to go do that because he's connected to those people and it's family, and he wants to support that, and he's going to give his time and energy to that, not necessarily because what he's going to get back, but that's what he's giving in that moment.
Right, but there's a what I've learned, and it was a hard lesson, that there's a lot of people that are at that polar opposite side.
Sure.
Polar opposite.
But that is hidden.
Sure.
Right? That it's you know, it's a hidden characteristic, and unfortunately you don't see that until way late.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, this game that we're trying to help people play, it's this idea of, well, being able to put on the table, here's what my core values are. This is really what I believe, and then how much of what you believe and I believe actually overlap.
Yep.
And then being able to move forward in a relationship that's a good match, you know, as we're headed in the right direction. And there's that war. There's we want to win, and I'll take whatever you can give me, man, you know, and I'll use it all up and throw it out. We'll do that at all costs. Or I'm really more interested in relationship here, and I'm really more interested in who you are and what I can do in your life, and how that relationship works.
What we can do together.
What we can do together, absolutely. How do we make change? How do we make a dent in what's going on in our culture based on what we believe?
Yep. Well, I mean, that's why it's so, I've worked with Matt Frazier since the end of 2014, and thanks to Rich. We talked about that last time of Rich forwarding my emails.
That's my email. Wait a minute.
But I mean,
awesome.
That's one of the things that I like about Matt, is that, one, I've known him for a long time. His values are things that resonate with me, but he is also driving the next direction of elite level fitness. And that is what's exciting for me, right? To take on and work with, you know, other games level athletes, which are certainly elite. Those things are less attractive to me than they once were. Mm-hmm. And they're less attractive because the risk of the money being involved, right? And I don't want to measure loyalty and things, but I want to carve in the direction to work on things with the elite to benefit the masses. Again, at the end of the day, I think what CrossFit has done and what we're defining with the elites is, how can we make the masses fitter in a more efficient way, right? Because time is going to get more valuable, and I want to spend my time, like that conversation that we had at the beginning with the swimmer. How can I leverage my knowledge in fitness, his knowledge in swimming, to find a better way for, let's say, a triathlete who only wants to swim 2 times a week? Is there a better way for them to create fitness with limited amounts of time? And that's what I want to do. And so I don't want it to make like you feel, or anyone feel like, oh, it's like, you know, he's concerned about other people. It's like, no, I want to work with people that are driving a more efficient and effective way to benefit this group. And that's where you and I are. We're here.
Yeah,
and that's what excites me about it. Like the amount of experimenting like I do with Matt Frazier is incredible. And, you know, he could talk about it now. He wasn't very good at med ball cleans, right? 150-pound balls. But if you saw him at the games, right, and you saw what he's able to do, and one of the things that he spent a lot of time on was he did med ball cleans into wall ball cleans, right? 7 heavy med balls into 1 minute of 20-pound balls, 5 rounds, no rest. And those experimental methodologies to build capacity is what has evolved into a whole range of new programming that people are doing, right? Handstand push-ups into PVC shoulder presses.
Yeah, that workout was crazy.
That hurt.
We did that up in the barn that day, last time you were here. That was amazing.
But it's good stuff, right?
Yeah,
and it came from experimenting and seeing a result.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Rich has done it where he does a 100-meter sprint into a 300-meter jog. There's no difference, right? Heavy bench press into a PVC bench press.
Which it's so cool to see you apply those principles.
Last question.
What matters most to you right now?
My move to Cookeville, Tennessee.
Your stuff gets here.
Yeah.
When's the truck
2
coming?
days?
Yeah,
Friday?
so wow, what the long time this has been coming, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Talked about it a long time, and truck comes
That's so exciting.
2 days. I know.
When
Have a
Heidi get
house.
here?
Yay! When does Heidi get here?
So she'll come down at the end of the month. We've got
So
we're going to
long.
South America. I know, but
know.
yeah, so exciting, right?
It'll be fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah, to hang out with.
great.
I know, full time. I know. I can't. Yeah.
All the fitness.
Can't wait to see
That's
all your
awesome.
experiments and hear about them and
Oh, and all of our one-on-ones at the
learn
track.
everything. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting for me.
That's
to be
awesome.
down here and
I think everyone's excited to have you come down.
it's so
here.
nice. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a major move, right? Coming out of California
A
and
little different.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, and it's permanent, right? It's not like, it's like, oh, we'll just fly home for the. It's like, no, that house is going away.
Yeah, it's going.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a great new chapter.
Yeah, no, it's just, it's, what Heidi and I made a little toast at the end of the year, and this will be the year of adventure.
That's awesome.
And,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's good.
Best year yet.
Yeah, no, we can't wait.
Episode 12, Chris Hinshaw. What was the episode he was on before?
Was it
4? 4. So if you haven't heard that one, it will be on iTunes as well. So you get a double dose you get like 2 hours of this conversation. So CrossFitMayhem.com. New stuff coming soon.
AerobicCapacity.com.
AerobicCapacity.com. There we
Happy
go.
New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Trey.